Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Striker. His name is Joe Pisapia, and guess what, folks? Football is upon us. This may very well be the most important show that you watch at this point in your life. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Those are the social media handles. No hyperbole here, my friend. Joey P., the author of the Fantasy Black Book. My man, tip of the cap. You've literally changed the way a generation plays and wins fantasy sports and straight up wagering. So just to sit down with you each and every week is special. But this week here, like I'm saying, this is the mostest specialistest FST ever, Joe. Come on in, my man. What's up?
I couldn't have said it better myself, nor could I have said it that way, because I would have probably just spit everywhere and it would have been gross. But thank you. Yes, and this is the biggest draft weekend of the year, every single year. 60% of Yahoo drafts happen this weekend. So hopefully you've got a couple of them yourselves, and hopefully you've got a few more left, because as Matt said, this is the most important show of your lifetime this morning that you're going to watch. And we're going to get you prepared for those last minute drafts that you have, get you some names that are, going on waiver wires that you could still pick up in some of these drafts and save yourself some free agent budget. We're going to talk about some last minute league winners and, of course, some giant news, because the Cowboys made a trade. They traded Micah Parsons, one of the best defensive players on the planet, and they got a couple first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. And then the Packers went out there and extended Micah Parsons and paid that man. And look, they can afford to do it. They've got their quarterback locked up as well. So, the Packers certainly could use some more pass rush. They've solidified that. Their corners, I think, are still a bit of a problem. I don't think the corner situation for the Packers is great. And this helps, because the less time you have corners have to guard good wide receivers, because you have a good pass rush, that helps a lot. But, it's not my line, Matt. It's a great line, and I'm stealing it, but I am giving credit to Kyle Brandt for it. He said, the Cowboys are a content company that does football on the side. And I think that's the best way to discuss the Cowboys. And I think that's kind of where we're at. They've got Dak Prescott. They're paying him all this money. Mm-hmm. They just traded for George Pickens, right? You have CeeDee Lamb, right? You have a big star here. So you're paying a lot of big stars in Dallas. And then another big star that wants to get paid and be there. But it's just a bridge too far. We can't do that one. I don't know what the plan is. They don't look like a playoff team to me necessarily. We'll see. We'll find out. But I was shocked that they actually pulled off this trade. I think it's great that they got some number one picks and they have all this draft capital. But the problem is, Matt, Jerry Jones is still the general manager as of right now, making those picks and making those moves. And he wouldn't be general manager for any other team in the NFL. There's no team in the NFL that if Jerry Jones got quote unquote fired, they would say, let's pick up the phone and call Jerry Jones to be our general manager of our football team. So, Matt, what was your reaction to this Micah Parsons trade? Because this has been the biggest buzz in the NFL over the last couple days.
Oh, it's easy to get distracted, right? But here on this show, on this network, it's always mind on our money and money on our mind. So let's look at it as how am I going to wager and draft now according to how this league looks? Because I'm glad that this happened now, because now I have a better understanding of the league. It's in its entirety. And we'll talk about the other news notes. So now if I'm drafting any point before Thursday night, I have a full spectrum of what this looks like. How am I betting on the Cowboys? If I'm the Cowboys, I'm walking into the room and be like, all right, guys, guess we're just going to have to put up points. All right, guys, guess who's going to step up? And I'm going to look at it that way. For a team like the Packers, this also allows them to play different. We know that Love said he wants to run more, and now you have Jacobs in there as well. The health of those wide receivers are a concern. How am I going to bet on this team early on in the season as they find their identity? What are those team totals and those over and unders going to look like now that Parsons is a Packer? That, to me, is what stands out, Joe.
Yeah, it really does. And I think there's a lot of fantasy implications here. Let's start with the Packers defense, because I've gotten that question a lot, actually. People say, well, what does this mean for the Packers defense? And I said it basically solidifies them as the 12th one, the last one off the board for me, which is good because I think you could have that conversation around it. I still like, teams in that range like the Giants better, to be honest. I think their pass rush is even better. I think they have a better personnel overall. And I do think that, like I said, this will help the corners, who I think are a little suspect there. So from the Green Bay situation, really good for the Green Bay Packers defense. They're basically being drafted as the last one off the board. And you could have that conversation, I think, before last week with Micah Parsons and the sacks that he potentially brings. It's very good. Then on the flip side, the Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side. All this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt? Which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts. I'm looking at overs, as you're saying, right? How to wager against or with this team. You're looking at overs here. You're looking at this run game still being a committee we don't have a grasp on at all yet. And anyone who's telling you that they do is making it up as they go along. So Dak as a quarterback right now, I think in fantasy, really just the stock even went up potentially this year as long as he can stay on the football field. And with Pickens, with Lamb, with no run game, with no Parsons, I think there's a lot to like here. So this was the biggest news. But Matt, as you can tell here, it wasn't the only news. So why don't you walk us through what else was going on in the NFL?
All right, as we start to see the NFL for what it is as we approach week 1, let's go to Kansas City. Rashee Rice, the decision has come down, suspended for 6 games to open up the season. Joe, I think most people were taking that into consideration as they move towards drafts. But again, from the wagering perspective and from the fantasy perspective, how does that shake out?
Well, we have this amazing thing at Fantasy Pros where I work called real-time ADP. So we have the consensus ADP, which is, filtering in from all the sites. But then we have real-time, which is what's happening in the last few days or even hours of drafts. And obviously that data is changing a lot this weekend, right? And the Rashee Rice news, to me, you're taking him out for almost half of a fantasy regular season. That's a lot of time. It's not a player that I'm searching for or being aggressive on at all. Would I take him over Chris Godwin? Maybe, because at least Rice isn't dealing with an injury, but it's got to be more of a dip. And right now, I can tell you he's being drafted as the 82nd player overall in real time. His trend line has gone -6 spots over the last 7 days. I don't think that's enough. I'll be honest with you, because he's being drafted still ahead of guys like Jerry Jeudy. I'm looking here. He's being drafted ahead of Matthew Golden, Stephon Diggs, Jacoby Myers, Travis Etienne. I think it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I think people are going to regret this, because 6 games of not having a guy you're drafting as a low-end wide receiver too, I think is a real problem. I just, unless you're in a 10-team league, and a lot of people are, so I understand they want to change their approach, right? 10-team league, 2 wide receivers rostered. The supply and demand is different, right? When you have 2 wide receivers you're starting as opposed to 3. But I still would want to wait on Rashee Rice. I still want more bodies. Injuries are still going to happen. Problems are still going to happen, Matt. I'm shocked that the ADP hasn't fallen further. What do you think?
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I like the tools that you reference. And watching shows like this on networks like this, you get the up-to-the-minute, up-to-date info. That's why we constantly giving out our social media handle. You can easily find it, because that's the world in which we live. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV, by the way. Chris, you mentioned Joe, you mentioned Chris Godwin, likely to return in week 5. You know what that means. I think that brings up Egbuka's draft stock a bit more, and we could talk about that. And also, I just want to tie it in, because he's also a wide receiver. Jaden Reed, his foot, he returned to practice in week 1, but it's still uncertain. That ties into that Packers conversation. But attack this wide receiver conversation, and then we can get to the fact that Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane are on track for week 1. Take us to the break.
Yeah, look, Egbuka, his stock has only gone up 2 spots in the last 7 days. Again, I don't understand this news. I don't understand what people are doing here. Either people the casuals and then, I don't know, man. Like, a lot of people are casuals and normies, right? So they're just drafting off the ADP, or they see an injury, or they see a suspension, but they don't think about it in the right context. And why you watch this show is to put everything in context for you, right? So there's a context here where Egbuka's stock should go up, absolutely, and Godwin's stock should go down, because Egbuka's going to have a run of at least 6 weeks. And who knows what happens when we get to that 6 weeks, even if Godwin's ready to go. Jaden Reed, obviously, still waiting on week 1. I think eventually he will get back, maybe limited for week 1. We'll see. Practice reports will be crucial this week. And then, of course, Achane and Hill, that's good news for the Dolphins. How long will it last? That's the question. Well, this show's going to last a little longer, so don't go anywhere. We're just getting started on FST.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun. play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There's no way you're going to have a team with 63 wins and two other teams with 55 and probably another two that are between 49 and 52. So there's got to be some pullback a little bit, right? Under 62 and a half wins for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here on the most important show of the NFL season. Okay, Joey P, you're the author of the Fantasy Black Book. You have different types of terms. We hear all these terms in analytics, but league winner, that's something everyone can understand. So here we go. Let's break down some people that Joey P feels could be your league winner. They range from an ADP of 47 all the way down to an ADP of 90. There are 3 running backs and 1 wide receiver. Joe, let's start with the New England Patriots. Where do you want to go?
Look, we're going to start with Travion Henderson because, again, league winner to me is a definition of a guy that's going at a draft stock that is lower than it should be. And the upside is somebody that next year you want to draft, let's say, as a second round or even a first round player. That's a league winning player typically, right? Maybe even third in a 10-team league. But Travion Henderson right now is ADP of 47 overall. And if you look at where he's going in terms of running backs, he's the 18th, 19th running back off the board. And there is definitely a pathway where his season could look very much like a couple years ago, Jahmyr Gibbs' breakout season, right? Where it started off a little slow, right? I don't think that's going to happen necessarily here in that same pattern, but the explosion of Jahmyr Gibbs in his rookie year after the first 6 weeks of the season, which were so bad that people wanted to drop Jahmyr Gibbs. They were trading away Jahmyr Gibbs and they had no patience for it. You have to have patience when it comes to rookies. And if you have the patience and you know there's a path to playing time, eventually the trading wheels come off and eventually guys like Travion Henderson explode. And he has that sort of giant playmaking ability. He has the athleticism, the speed, the explosiveness that this Patriots offense has lacked for years, okay? And that's years plural. That's going back to the Tom Brady end of era where Tom Brady was saying, can you get me somebody who can run a 4.40 for God's sakes? I mean, the game has changed. The Patriots have had very little speed, very little explosiveness. Now they get it all in one player. And Ramondre Stevenson's still there to kind of shave carries off, but you're going to see Travion Henderson a ton. And I do think even if it starts off slow in September, don't panic. I do see the explosion of this player potentially being a guy that we look at next year and going, oh yeah, at the turn, I want to take Travion Henderson. It could be that good. And the fact that you can get him as the 20th RB sometimes off the board, that's the kind of pick, that's the kind of selection that can win you a league, because all of a sudden you're getting a guy who could perform as an RB1, but you're getting him at cost as a low-end RB2. That is a huge win.
All right, you've got me excited here. So let's say I'm going into my drafts and, the guy before me just grabbed Travion Henderson at RB, you said 18, 19, 20. ADP 52, here I am. I want a running back. I want a running back league winner. I need a guy with a good offensive line and things of that nature. Where do I go here?
All the factors here for RJ Harvey with Denver are really good. Let's start with the fact that the defense is so good. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because chances are they're going to be holding teams, and if they have leads, they're going to be holding leads, and that means we're running the football a lot more. And J.K. Dobbins is there, but J.K. Dobbins has proven in this league he is not a lead running back. He's another one, like Ramondre Stevenson, I think, who is going to shave 100 carries off of the workload of a rookie, and he's there to support. But RJ Harvey is the guy. He's the Alvin Kamara in this Sean Payton offense. He's the guy that's catching the football. He's a guy that's, again, explosive with the runs. Had we talked about, had Ashton Genty not been in this draft, I think we'd talk a lot more about RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson, and we would have hyped them up even more. But Ashton Genty was so incredible and such an amazing college career that some of these guys just didn't get the same amount of attention. There wasn't enough love to go around. And I'm going to spread some love here when it comes to RJ Harvey, because he can catch the football out of the backfield, because he does have that explosiveness, because this is a situation where we know Bo Nix historically is going to have a low average depth of target. He's not a guy that's, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 60 yards downfield. That's just not his game, right? So it's going to be a lot of quick outs, a lot of quick screen passes, a lot of just getting rid of the football fast. And RJ Harvey, even Evan Ingram are going to benefit from that. So to me, RJ Harvey's another one of these guys. You look at him, ADP of 52, RB 21. There's a good chance next year he is a third-round selection. So when he's going in the fifth round of drafts this year, that's a huge value. And if he performs, especially if you're somebody like me who is a big wide receiver build roster construction person where I want to just pound the wide receiver position as much as I can for the first few rounds, I need to find guys like Henderson. I need to find guys like Harvey to make up ground. Caleb Johnson's another one. We'll talk about him in the show probably too. But those are two of the running backs that I think could have huge seasons. I'm telling you to be patient because they are rookies. By the time we get into mid-October, I think these guys are going to take off.
All right, I like it. Let's keep the conversation going with Joe Pisapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. Joe, you mentioned you like sometimes to do a wide receiver build. We're talking about here that players that can win you your league. Give me a wide receiver. I'm sitting at ADP 61. Where can I go?
Well, look, last year we had Brian Thomas Jr., right, who came into the league and didn't have, I think, nearly the hype as some other wide receivers did. And all he did was put up a season of wide receiver 4 with 1,282 yards and 10 touchdowns. And I'm telling you right now, Tetairoa McMillan can do that for the Carolina Panthers. So they've jettisoned Adam Thielen. To start the year, Jalen Coker is hurt, which is unfortunate because Coker was going to work out of that slot, which is a very valuable spot. His draft stock's probably plummeting right now. Draft him with your last pick. I would still take Jalen Coker on my team. But Leggett is just a nice player. He's not special for me. Tetairoa McMillan is special. He was the best wide receiver in this draft, in my opinion. And to me, this is the alpha dog. ADP of 61, wide receiver 26. There's a good chance he finishes somewhere around wide receiver 13 or 14, kind of doubling his current draft stock. And I'm telling you, I'm comfortable enough if I have the 1 pick and I have Jamar Chase and it comes back to me in the second, third round, and I don't like the wide receivers that are there, I think you can make a case for him over Garrett Wilson. I just think there's more passing yards to happen. And then speaking of the Jacksonville Jaguars, too, of some of those other teams that we were just discussing with Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Etienne. Last year was a disappointment. He was hurt. Injuries kind of robbed him of a good season, what could have been. But the year before that, he was RB3 in fantasy. I don't understand how we've lost sight of that. And he's going as the RB32, not as an RB2, as the third RB. Yes, Tank Bigsby's going to take some work away. Yes, Bashal Tutin is interesting. But here's the thing. Travis Etienne is on the last year of his contract. He could easily be a burn insurance situation. The Liam Cohen offense goes and favors the pass-catching running back. And who is that of this group? It's Travis Etienne. So for me, Etienne, I think, has a great potential for a bounce-back renaissance. It doesn't cost you anything to be wrong, but to be right, potentially win you your league. So these are the kind of picks you should be making, and these are the kind of guys you should be aggressive on in your drafts this weekend. We'll be right back with more FST on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame and it gets on my nerves. Like for me being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs and your team can make the playoffs.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
There's no way you're going to have a team with 63 wins and two other teams with 55 and probably another two that are between 49 and 52. So there's got to be some pullback a little bit, right? Under 62 and a half wins for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here. TD, Jake, and Pat are behind the glass today on the ones and twos. And I got to tell you, folks, it's an interesting crew this morning. We don't all four of us normally work together, but I got to tell you, when three talented people get together, and then there's me, things kind of really go nicely. We're talking about the different places to shop and where do we find our best bargains on things like school supplies and all that. And then our producer says, throw it out to the people. So I am at SportsGrid TV.
Yes,
let me hear. Where are you shopping, folks? What is the place to go where people don't realize, you know where you can really get a deal? Insert store here. It could be on anything at all. We're completely open to the conversation. Another conversation we're open to having is players to avoid. And I think this first one is really going to surprise a lot of people. So I'm glad I gave out the social media handle because people, I know you're going to want to rail. Do it against Joe. I'm just steering the ship here. Joe, your number one player to avoid is based off of, I think, career history of games missed or injury, as well as the ADP. And I want you to maybe just start right there. He's RB4, an ADP of 7, and you're saying completely stay away. Floor is yours.
Well, it's funny. Last year, I took a lot of heat because I told people to avoid Christian McCaffrey at 1, right? And how'd that work out? Just saying. Just asking the same people want to come at me. How'd that work out? I love Christian McCaffrey. He's a phenomenal player. He is extraordinary talent. He is a league-winning player. But he's also a league-losing player. And when you have to draft somebody as the 7th guy off the board, to me, that's just a bridge too far. Matt, how many games or touches or plays has Christian McCaffrey been involved in this preseason? The answer is 0. Right. Okay. 0. Okay.
I'm always so afraid to get the answer wrong, especially when you lean in and give me the Jiminy Glick. Tell me.
Tell me how many it is. What's going on here? But 0. 0. Right. Okay. Now, is that them keeping him a bubble wrap? Sure, maybe. But it would have been nice if my first round pick played a little bit in the preseason and was healthy enough to play. So am I supposed to now for the second year in a row, it's what's the old thing, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So what, now we're going to just believe the 49ers a second time around, that everything is just hunky-dory and fine? When we started this process in July, Christian McCaffrey was the 14th player going off the board in July. Best ball season, different game, okay, whatever. At 14, I was like, wow, that's really intriguing. 14, or even at the turn at 12, yeah, I'm in on Christian McCaffrey because that kind of pick, there makes sense. And you're saying, well, it's only 5 spots later. Yeah, it's 5 spots later, but I can also get another guy right after him to back it up, an alpha dog, a Nico Collins, a Drake London, maybe even an Ashton Genty or a Derrick Henry. But the fact that he's getting drafted over Derrick Henry, who all Derrick Henry does is rush for 1,900 yards every year with 18 touchdowns, and nobody seems to care but me. I'm the only person who cares in fantasy football that Derrick Henry is great every single year. And Christian McCaffrey, God bless him, he's a phenomenal talent. But I just don't have to take somebody at 7 with that much risk. And I just don't like it. Could he end up being the number 1 guy? Of course. Could he end up winning guys a lot of leagues? Sure. But then tell me this, if everything is so great, why didn't they just pick another running back off the scrap heap? Why did they go out there and make a trade for a really solid running back and Brian Robinson on top of that? I'm sorry, all this math to me doesn't math when it comes to Christian McCaffrey being a quote-unquote safe pick at 7.
Yeah, no, listen, it's hard to argue with that, and I feel your passion. And when someone like you gets passionate about something, there's something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Keep that passion going here for another running back, RB15, an ADP of 36. You can handle yourself down in the Mission District, in the streets of San Francisco, but can you handle yourself in East Rutherford, New Jersey? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, in the swamplands of East Rutherford. Yeah, I can definitely. Yeah, definitely. Look, here's the thing. Breece Hall is a very, again, talented running back at a 36 player off the board, RB15. It's not terrible, but my problem is the guys around him in that range. And I'm just going to rattle off some of the names. Joe Burrow's at 40. Okay. That's pretty close. Wow. Joe Burrow, I think, could end up being MVP this year. Travion Henderson's at 43. Devontae Adams, a player I love this year. You have Tony Pollard, who has 3 straight years of 1,000 yards rushing. You have George Pickens. You have RJ Harvey, Teteroa McMillan, Cortland Sutton, coming off a wide receiver 13 season. So all those guys from 40 to about, but all those guys from 40 to 55 in that range with Breece Hall, I just like all those players more. And then I can get Braylon Allen as the 95th player off the board later if I want a share of what this backfield could be. Because if it is a 1-1A kind of backfield and they end up a 60-40 split, I just don't think it's a great look for Breece Hall at that ADP. So again, it's not about hating the player. It's about hating the ADP. And just going back to McCaffrey, I want everybody to marinate on that Brian Robinson comment too. There's a lot of running backs that could have been had for nothing. They gave up some draft capital to get Brian Robinson, who's not just, a throwaway guy. He's a really solid, decent NFL running back. Let that sink in about what San Francisco might do in that backfield this year. More FST right after this. Think about it on the break.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame and it gets on my nerves. Like for me being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs when your team can make the playoffs.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
There's no way you're going to have a team with 63 wins and 2 other teams with 55 and probably another 2 that are between 49 and 52. So there's got to be some pullback a little bit, right? Under 62.5 wins for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today, it's the time we've all been waiting for, folks. It's time to do fantasy breakouts with Joe Pisapia. Everyone has been waiting at SportsGrid TV, the entire lobby filled. They've endured the countless pandering and horrible dad jokes that Joe and I will trade like horrible players before the U.S. Open. You know, like when they let the kids on the court. It's like, oh, they're so cute. That's Joe and I trying to trade barbs here. But fantasy breakouts. Point Joe. Let's go to an ADP of 81, wide receiver 36. We were actually talking about, hey, what are the 49ers doing? And why is McCaffrey drafted so high? And they just went out and got Brian Robinson. They also traded for Sky Moore, a little side note there. But enter the room, Ricky Pearsall. Joe, why?
Well, why is because Brandon Ayuk isn't healthy, and he's not going to be back right away. Juwan Jennings has been banged up, and also Juwan Jennings came off kind of like a magical fun season there where I like Juwan Jennings. We were talking about adding him probably before anybody else was talking about adding him off the waiver wire last year and putting him in there because he is a good blocker, and you could see even going back to the Super Bowl that Juwan Jennings was somebody that Brock Purdy felt comfortable with. But Pearsall's the guy they spent draft capital on, right? And Pearsall towards the end of last year did have a couple really good moments. It's so ironic too that both he and now Brian Robinson Jr., 2 guys who had been shot in successive years, are now on the same team. I don't know what sort of weird karmic NFL moment that is, but I feel like it's when the 2 arms come together with that big together in that, was it the commando moment? I feel like that's these 2 guys on the practice field. But Ricky Pearsall, he's been the healthiest wide receiver. He's been working the most with Brock Purdy. There's still Christian McCaffrey in the pecking order for now. There's still George Kittle. But after that, it really feels like Ricky Pearsall could be that number 1 wide receiver at least. Now, he might not be the number 1 target hog in this offense, but he could be the number 1 wide receiver. And if something happens to McCaffrey or something happens to Kittle,
right,
it can only be more wheels up. It's a good schedule for the 49ers. Pearsall is a guy that fits the system really well and the style of play. So to me, I think Pearsall is one of these guys that gets overlooked. The 36 wide receiver, I think there's almost no way he doesn't finish as a wide receiver 2, and he's being drafted almost as a wide receiver 4. That, my friends, is how you win leagues, and I think he has a breakout potential in 2025.
So so I can get a summation of your logic here, is you're looking for a guy that's in an offensive ecosystem that could thrive as injuries and uncertainty ahead of him. Let's say Pearsall gets plucked at wide receiver 36. This next wide receiver 37, ADP of 83, has an incredibly similar situation. The only difference is he's never stepped foot on an NFL field until now. Joe?
He hasn't, but he's from wide receiver U. And those Ohio State boys typically get it done, and Egbuka is another one of these guys that just, kind of coming through the ranks here. And, Mike Evans is still the man, but Chris Godwin is hurt, and we don't know if he's back in week 5-ish or whatever that is. I don't like the sound of ish at the end of my timetables. Okay. I want definitive ishless timetables. That's what I'm looking for. Wide receiver 37. Yes, please. Again, I think in the first 5-6 weeks of the season, Egbuka could be probably wide receiver 15. There's enough throwing in this Tampa offense to make him wide receiver 15 over the first couple weeks. And you're giving him to me at 37. I'm going to take him. Now, what does it look like as the season goes on? This is why I'd rather have Pearsall than Egbuka, because eventually if Godwin does come back and Jalen McMillan does come back, maybe things get a little muddy. Again, that's a maybe. Egbuka could ball out, and we might be saying, well, the other guys have to take a back seat. But Pearsall, I think, has the clearer path as time goes on than Egbuka does. That's why it's kind of splitting hairs. But if I could get both of these guys in a draft, I would love to, because I think both of them are going to hit the ground running. And you want to get off to a good start. People in fantasy leagues, they lose attention span. They go 1-5. They're not happy. There's other ways to make trades eventually and figure things out here. But if you get off to a hot start, Egbuka, Pearsall could be 2 of those guys that help you do just that.
All right, we're seeing a great reaction from people on social media at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV, and they're asking for one more wide receiver that fits this good team. Maybe the wide receiver one is injured, or maybe the other wide receivers around him are injured, albeit might be a rookie. We got a guy at wide receiver 42, an ADP of 94. And this is probably my favorite one out of the bunch, Joe. Take it away.
Yeah, wide receiver 42 for Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play. And I think Matthew Golden is going to get peppered with targets. I really do. So, again, wide receiver 42, I see his finish, and this is the way you have to think about things. Where do these guys finish, right? Next year, where am I drafting Matthew Golden? Is he a top 25 wide receiver? I'm pretty sure he's going to be, just based off of what's there in Green Bay currently. And his wide receiver 42, that makes him a huge bargain, and that makes him a guy that if he breaks out this year, and I think he will, that he is going to help carry fantasy teams. So if you are somebody that is building early with running backs, Pearsall, Egbuka, Golden, some of these second-year wide receivers and rookie wide receivers, Ted McMillan, another one we just talked about too. Those are the guys you're going to have to target to make up ground at wide receiver. Guys who jump a tier at wide receiver is how you win fantasy leagues. 4s that perform as 3s, 3s that perform as 2s, 2s that can perform as 1s. That's the secret sauce.
Good advice, Joe. Definitely some good advice. All right, with the time that we have left, let's show some love to maybe the tight end position and the quarterback position. Our very own George Kurtz, that you can see, I believe, each and every Saturday, along with Craig Mish on Fantasy Sports Today Saturday, was the first guy that put Tyler Warren on my radar. Tyler Warren, ADP at 96, tight end 10. I like Jonathan Taylor, so then I should like Tyler Warren, Joe.
Yeah, you should. And here's the thing, last year there was a guy being drafted as tight end 10 overall who was a rookie, and his name was Brock Bowers, and that worked out pretty well. And Tyler Warren is not Brock Bowers. He's a little bit more in that George Kittle kind of mode, I feel like, and just a phenomenal player at Penn State too. Just a guy that got after it, great energy player. And Daniel Jones is the quarterback, at least for now. And I think when you go back and look at the history of Daniel Jones, when you gave him Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram healthy, Daniel Jones was serviceable. I don't want to use the word good because I don't think that's fair, but serviceable. And I think Tyler Warren, as the last tight end in a 10-team league being taken, is a guy that I want. I think Tucker Kraft is in that conversation too, of guys who could break out at tight end this year, because Matthew Golden, right, kind of the last man standing there pass catching. Somebody else has to catch a football. Why not Tucker Kraft, right? You saw him kind of emerge last year. Very quietly good season for him. So Kraft, Warren, those are two guys at the tight end position that could really break out this season.
All right, and last but not least is a quarterback 16, an ADP of 118. And when we talk about offensive ecosystem, which is a term from, Joe, your book, just describing the overall offensive ability of the team, I look at Stephon Diggs and I look at Travion Henderson and I say, hey, who's throwing that football, Joe?
Well, it's Drake May. And Drake May has an improved offensive line. It's not a great one, but it is improved. He has a lot more rushing ability than people realize. There's an upside here, and Pat Fitzmaurice, Pat, who I work with at Fantasy Pros, he thinks he could rush for 700 plus yards this year. That's how much rushing he believes Drake May could have. And now that he does have weapons that can help pad his stats, like Stephon Diggs, like Kyle Williams, like Travion Henderson, right? It's important. If you go back and look at the best of Justin Herbert, right? It was a Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler in his prime, right? Those guys help. Drake May had no help last year, and now as a second-year QB, he's got a real offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. He's got a real head coach in Mike Vrabel. He's got real talent around him at the skill position players for the first time. And there's a lot to like here. Plus, he's also free, which means that he's the 13th quarterback going off the board, 16th here recently, but now the real-time ADP, he's moved up to 13. So he's still pretty much, if you wait on QB to the last couple rounds, Drake May should be around there. But if you take a Drake May and a Jared Goff with your last couple picks to have, I'm going to have the veteran, but I'm also going to have the upside of the rushing QB, that's a good way of looking at it. And it's funny because Justin Fields, so far after preseason, he's come down a little bit. Drake May's come up. They're going as the 12th and 13th QBs off the board in real-time ADP. But there's a scenario here where Drake May finishes as a top 10 QB, and the fact that he's free, I think, is very intriguing. And in Superflex leagues, when you're playing two quarterbacks, you definitely got to keep an eye on Drake May too. There's a lot of upside, but I'd want to put him with a stable veteran just to give me that floor on a weekly basis. Don't go anywhere. More FST right around the corner after this quick break.
time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks, because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here, getting you everything you need in order to dominate. I mean, just already some of the names that we have been dropping, really interesting. But now I'll admit, I'm an old school guy, grab your pad and pen, because there's at least one or two names here that I don't think the casual fan is going to know, but everyone's going to know this name should one of two things happen. So early waiver wire ads. Yep, we're at that point. And remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. So why not go and grab these guys now, whether you know their names or not, before the other people get there. Let's start with a running back in Miami. Now, we did report that Devon Achane is cleared to work for week 1. What that means remains to be seen. So should something happen, where would we go, Joe?
Well, even if something doesn't happen, I think Ollie Gordon's really interesting. Jalen Wright was terrible in the preseason, averaging 1.9 yards per carry, and then he's hurt, right? So Ollie Gordon immediately goes into the number 2 spot here. And Gordon was another prospect I liked out of Oklahoma State University that I thought could, be a solid NFL running back, right? Especially if he landed in the right system. And he landed in the right system, but there were so many guys ahead of him, I think none of us really paid attention to it around draft season. We're like, oh, well, Ollie Gordon ended up with the Dolphins. Oh, well, okay. Oh, well. Just kind of looked around. But now he's moved up the depth chart. He's had a phenomenal preseason, 126 yards in the preseason. He's looked great in this offense. And let's not forget, it's not that long ago where it was Achane and Raheem Mostert eating in this offense, right? So there's room for 2 running backs in this offense. And if you want to keep Devon Achane healthy for 17 games, you better get Ollie Gordon the football, Mike McDaniel. I'm looking at you, Mike McDaniel. Who's probably going to be gone around week 12. I would think the bye week is week 12 for the Dolphins.
Feels about right.
Feels about right. But in the meantime, before we get there, Devon Achane is dealing with a calf issue. Those can be very tricky. So let's keep a close eye on that. But again, this is about getting ahead of the waiver wire. So you have these drafts coming up today, tomorrow, right? Or even during the week before football starts. Rather than spend free agent budget, let's get ahead of the game. And Ollie Gordon's one of these first guys with some of your last picks that I think you should be targeting, because I think there's some room for him to get some work in a rotation anyway, even with the Achane injury now, but also in this offense, even if Achane stays healthy all year, I think that there's also room for a second running back in Miami. We've seen it before, especially more of a bruising guy potentially in the goal line area. So Ollie Gordon is a really interesting name that I think people should be drafting, and I've been drafting him a lot in the last 2 weeks.
All right, it is now time for the things I couldn't imagine myself saying 2 weeks ago portion of the show. Joe, discuss in depth the offensive ecosystem of the Cleveland Browns. Are there any players anyway?
Yes.
And I mean, I make the joke, but I just feel like there are certain teams everyone stays away from, right? I mean, in baseball, it's teams like the Rockies and the White Sox, but there are still good players on bad teams. What do we have here?
There are. And look, you want to invest in good offensive ecosystems, but we can't have everybody in a good offensive ecosystem. And bad offensive ecosystems can still yield you some fantasy points. And there's two guys on the Browns that I think are worthy of note. The Quinshon Judkins situation is really obviously still floating around. Nobody knows how that's going to end up. I think we know what Jerome Ford is. And again, coming back to prospect work that you do in January, February, March, leading up to the NFL draft, Dylan Sampson was a running back I think a lot of people had high expectations for. And then he landed in a spot where he was the second running back drafted, and that's not great, right? Because the Cleveland Browns are just all over the place. But Judkins isn't going to be a factor, at least not right away. If ever, who knows? But Dylan Sampson could be a factor. And I do think there's a world where you draft and stash Dylan Sampson and wait it out. Football is a tough game, right? You know, Jerome Ford injury could happen in week one. Next thing you know, Sampson becomes the unfettered RB1 potentially in this offense. So I think this is a stock you want to just buy on the cheap, and it's dirt cheap right now, right? You can get Dylan Sampson on the cheap with some of your last picks in the draft, stash him, wait, see what happens, because I guarantee you what's going to happen. Like if Jerome Ford gets hurt week 1 or week 2, what are we all doing? We're all running to the waiver wire, spending 30-40% of our waiver wire budget on Dylan Sampson, right? Why not get ahead of that and see what happens for these first couple of weeks? It's a good way to look at Ollie Gordon and Dylan Sampson as kind of running back insurance guys. And then the other Brown to talk about is Cedric Tillman, who is a player that I liked, again, coming into the league, had a really good run there for a couple games. It was short-lived, but it was really good. And now you're dropping him in with Joe Flacco. Deontay Johnson, I told you it wasn't going to be a thing. Any guy that's on 3 teams in 1 year is not a thing anymore. And now Cedric Tillman has an opportunity here to be the true number 2 in this offense. The guy can go up there and get it. Joe Flacco is still a guy who's going to sling that football around. Now, is he going to sling it to the other team sometimes? Sure. But he's going to also find Cedric Tillman at other times. So I think Tillman, another sneaky deep league guy that you want to have on your roster, you want to stash along with Sampson. Is the Browns the best offensive ecosystem? No. But Joe Flacco is going to make Njoku, Judy, and probably Cedric Tillman useful as well.
All right, with the final 2 minutes here, let's address 2 different teams. A lot of people are high on the Denver Broncos, and they believe that not if Cortland Sutton is doubled, perhaps Marvin Mims is the way to go. And then you'll take us to the break talking overall about this Tennessee Titans ecosystem, because I really think this team is going to be able to put up some points. Take it away, Joe.
Yeah, Marvin Mims is the guy in the Broncos spot there that I think going late, interesting dart throw, had a nice touchdown run last year, scoring a bunch of TDs, and people will say, well, there's regression in that. Well, maybe there isn't. Like maybe because you have all of these weapons, somebody's open, and a guy like Marvin Mims can really be a big playmaker for you. He's a little bit more of a flex appeal guy, boom or bust kind of wide receiver, but I think one that's worthy of drafting. And again, in that Sean Payton offense, I'm intrigued. I'm not saying he's going to score 15 touchdowns this year. Could he score 8? It's possible, and he could be a good guy to have for those bye weeks where you could plug in a guy like Marvin Mims and hope for a big game. Then, of course, on the other side, this is more of a deep league one, maybe a 14-team one, but another guy I loved in the draft process was Alec Aomanor of the Tennessee Titans now. Really like the college tape. One of the best college tapes you have is that game where he just lit up Travis Hunter, one of the better corners in college football last year. There's also a great play that everybody shows you with Aomanor where he's going over the top of Hunter and dragging him into the end zone, basically. And this kid has shown so far to have a really good rapport with Cam Ward. You could tell they were working out together in the summer. You could tell that's bled over into the field. The only thing standing in his way right now is an aging Tyler Lockett. And I just think over time, Aomanor is going to get some looks. Now, he was a little banged up in that last preseason game, but Alec Aomanor is another one of these names to stash. And in deeper leagues too, one more, Torrey Horton of the Seattle Seahawks, another guy that I liked in the process a lot, and he is moving up the depth chart as well. So again, deeper leagues, I got you covered. Shallow leagues, I got you covered. We're going to lose a lot of championships this year. I can feel it in my bones, Matt. Let's go.
on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks, because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here. I had a great time. This team has been absolutely incredible. It's just all about winning here. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Keep it right here. Pro Baseball Today coming up right after us. There's still plenty of money left on the table. All the sharps have left for football. I'm telling you, it's just free money. Joey P., 3 things you're looking forward to this week, because the next time we all convene, God willing, we live and be well, football will have been played and there will be more football upon us, and everyone will just be a few inches taller and just a couple of, kilowatts stronger if we all do that, right? Some of us shoot out electricity. Time for 3 and Out, Joe. 3 things you're looking forward to. I tried, man.
Well, I'm looking forward to this Dallas Cowboys-Eagles game even more now, I got to tell you. I mean, we're kicking things off here. Thursday night, no Micah Parsons. The circus that is the Dallas Cowboys, and look, Cowboy fans are, they're in their feelings right now. And I understand. I mean, Taylor Swift got a ring in the last 30 years before they did. So, I mean, it's just rough right now if you're a Cowboys fan.
You've been holding that one for a while, or have you used that one like that?
No,
you've been holding on to that one. Yeah.
No, just kind of came out. These are just the natural trolls just coming out to Cowboys fans. I am more than I should be at times. But Micah Parsons is gone. So I don't know what they're going to do here. I mean, can you imagine Kenny Clark? He's all sitting there going, "Hey, cool, we got Micah Parsons. Oh man, I'm going to Dallas." So close, Kenny. So close. But look, the defending champions are going to be out there, and Dallas certainly now is going to have to prove that they can just outgun teams. That's what we're going to have to do. The run game isn't there. The defense is going to be questionable. And I just don't know what the direction is for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that's the most frustrating thing. If you're a Cowboys fan, you look at the brand and what the Dallas Cowboys were. Probably most of people were kids, right? As a child of the 90s myself, the Cowboys were it, man. Winning multiple Super Bowls and, being that team. And then the brand has just really disintegrated over the years. Like ever since Jimmy Johnson left, pretty much, it's never been the same brand, which tells you, football is about ownership and having the right football people in place under that ownership. And the organizations that have that are the ones that succeed every year. They're the ones that don't lose very often. You look at the ownership and the continuity and the coaching of the Pittsburgh Steelers over the years. You look at what the Patriots were able to do for the better part of 2 decades and now look like they're back to doing again. It's very clear how you win the NFL. It starts at the top, it starts with ownership. And the Dallas Cowboys right now are just, like I said, in their feelings, and rightfully so. They're just directionless right now. Kansas City, are we going to get off to a slow start for the Chiefs again, right? Remember last year when the Ravens pushed them to the brink, and the year before where they lost in week 1 to the Lions? It's been 25 years, folks. 25 years, and only one team has lost the Super Bowl and made it back, and that team was a team led by Tom Brady. So that means that you can crumple it up, throw it out the window. It's an anomaly. It's a Tom Brady. That's it. You can't compare him to anybody else. Let's see how they start this year. This is going to be an interesting one here. They're playing not at home, right? They're playing on the road in this game in Brazil, right? So you're going to have now all of a sudden a very excited Charger team on the other side, right? Ready to go, ready to prove something after that bad playoff loss. Should be a really interesting game. And then more of this Cowboy fallout that we talked about, because I just feel like there's just more of that to come here. They're putting out, oh, well, Micah Parsons wasn't a good guy in meetings. He wasn't a leader. He wasn't, and maybe all that's true. Maybe he's an attitude problem, or maybe this is damage control, Matt. What do you think it is?
I mean, he could be whatever he wants. I mean, the guy is, what is he, 26 years old? Not even. I mean, he can do whatever as long as morally and ethically he's fine. He just makes his team better. But I think you touched on something here, talking about some of the slow starts and some games being played overseas. Be really careful, folks, with this first week 1 and how we wager. I know we're all super excited and we all want to get it, but that Thursday game, maybe that one can be a fun one. Maybe you throw something that it's okay to get rid of. But that week 1, you don't want to go into week 2 chasing your bankroll. We talk about it all the time on this network, no matter the sport. Early on, we want to build our bankroll going with the things that we know to be true. Right now, we know nothing to be true. So just please proceed with caution for this week 1, Joe. That's going to be my PSA.
You know, we talked about something in one of the breaks after that McCaffrey thing that we were discussing about why I don't like Christian McCaffrey and his ADP. If McCaffrey had played a series or 2, what do you think his ADP would have been? Would he be in the top 3?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
He didn't even have to do that, and he already moved from 14 to 7 over the course of 2 months. Really interesting to see how that all works out. Hope all of your drafts work out, obviously, and if you've been watching the show for the last couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure that they will. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Matt Striker, I'm Joey P. Have a great draft this weekend, and don't forget, be prepared, be flexible, go win that championship. We'll see you next time, kids.
Every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
He is not Derrick Henry. He is not one of those special backs in that sense. A really good one that's been outstanding in fantasy for quite some time. But you can also hear the buzz recently about it being more of a split backfield. And if that's so, then Aaron Jones' value takes a hit, Jordan Mason's value goes up, and there's an opportunity at some point, if Aaron Jones misses time, where you can see Jordan Mason take that backfield over.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's a safe shot, pin high left with a 6-iron. And then this is where JJ enters the fray again and hits this like slice 5-iron. That was just, I mean, it curved probably a good, 30, 40 feet, almost flies in the hole. And it was just a crazy shot because nobody would ever really try to hit that type of slider.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
An HRR, parlay a combo that you want to do. I generally prefer away teams and players that hit at the top of the lineup or in the top half, just because you are guaranteed just that extra plate appearance here or there. How many times, throughout the season, I've been like, listen, if this guy gets on, he will have one more at bat in the 9th inning, and if he doesn't get there, there. If you just take them that place higher, they're going to be in a spot to cash that bag.
Pro Baseball Today, only on